Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for a state championship preview edition of Inside the Zone. Bishop Luers, as we have been talking about all season long, Tom Davis of the News Sentinel, they're exactly where, to paraphrase Dennis Green, they're exactly who we thought they were.
They are. We expected this back in early August, and here we are again. We should have just run the tape from the last 2 years, and we could talk about Bishop Luers and how they want to win another state championship. This is their third straight trip there. It could be their 10th title overall. Obviously, it's a tradition-rich program, and they've beaten the best to get here. They beat number 2 Bremen, who was undefeated. You know, their offense is always prolific, but they did it with defense this past week, and congratulations to the Luers kids because they deserve this opportunity. And
the way they've won the last two, people want to say that that they go down there and own them, but if you want to take a look at the last two championships, 24-17 against Monrovia a couple years ago, and then last year 26-14 against North Putnam. So they've gone down and won, but it hasn't been as dominant as we thought it was going to be. Not as one-sided as we thought it was going to be when it came down to actually playing the game down at Lucas Oil.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, once you get to this point, the state championship game, everybody is great. They're not just really, really good. They're great. And so it is hard to blow out a great team. However, it's interesting. They're going to play Evansville Mater Dei for the third time for the state championship. Both in 2000 and 2001, they played them. And Luers won one and lost one, and neither game was close. Both were blowouts. So history tells us that this will be a blowout. However, I really disagree. I think it'll be a close game because these are two very evenly matched teams.
When you take a look at what Evansville has done in the past, they're a throwing team. I think as far as career passing goes in the state of Indiana, they've got 2 of the top 8 passers. And they played in around that era back when they played Bishop Luers in the early 2000s. So what do we expect from Evansville Mater Dei? Because obviously it's a team that we don't see every week.
Well, Dane Maurer, their quarterback, is a very versatile quarterback. He can throw, but he can also run. He can hurt you with his feet a little bit. But this is a running team as well. Cody Hess is a really strong running back for Evansville Mater Dei. He carried the ball 30 times against Guerin Catholic for 150 yards. 88 yards in the second half. So once they got up on Guerin Catholic, and they dug themselves a hole, they actually outscored Guerin Catholic 27-3 after digging themselves a 13-0 hole. But once they got up on them, they wanted to just pound the rock and run the ball over and over and over again to run that clock down, and that's what they did. So yes, traditionally they're a throwing offense, but they can certainly run the ball. And they have very good special teams, and they have an excellent kicker as well. He's going to play soccer at North Carolina State, and interestingly, he's going to face another Fort Wayne team for a state championship. Their kicker was a forward on the soccer team that lost to Canterbury earlier this season. So he's got a little bit of a revenge on his mind. Very balanced Mater Dei team, excellent defensively, excellent offensively, but they can run the ball.
When you take a look at the quarterback position, obviously it's great to have a quarterback in James Kanapke who has not only played in 1, but 2 state championship games and won them both. However, when you go over the statistics, he has not had his best game in the state championship game. So going in, what do you expect from James Kanapke as he leads his team as a senior now at Bishop Luers into the state championship game?
Well, I expect James Kanapke to be worried about one number, and that's the number 3, and that'll be the 3rd straight state championship. But yes, you're right. He hasn't excelled in the state championship games like he has in some of the regular season games, but all he cares about is winning the game, and he's done that 2 times, and he's going to go for number 3. What'll be interesting, what he can do this week is Mater Dei likes to blitz a lot. They blitz from the linebacker spot. They got Guerin Catholic's quarterback 5 times on the ground for almost a negative 30 yards. And Kanapke's not a super mobile quarterback. He's a gunslinger. He likes to stand back there. So it's going to be really imperative that the offensive line and the running backs pick up those blitzes as they come through to give him an extra split second to get the ball to his receivers. If he can do that, then they'll be okay. But he may be scrambling a little bit, and so they're going to really try to pressure Kanapke quite a bit.
When you take a look at the other side of the football on defense, last week at Luers Field, we saw a defense that took advantage of some opportunities, created turnovers, and turned them into points. Are they going to need they needed a defensive touchdown last year to ice it.
Right.
Are they going to need another defensive performance like that this week?
They're going to need all three of the facets of football: special teams, offense, and defense. If one doesn't show up, they're going to be in trouble. Because like I said, I think this is going to be a really close, competitive game. So yeah, they're going to need their defense. And it's interesting because both Mater Dei and Luers utilized their defense last week to advance to this point. They got they picked off Garin Catholic's quarterback a couple of times, and he's a good quarterback. He's being looked at by Ball State. So Garin Catholic's quarterback isn't some slouch. And obviously Bishop Luers picked off Bremen's quarterback twice in the final minutes to seal that victory, which really was a close game up until that point. So yeah, both teams utilized their defense to get to this point. They're going to need it again this week.
A win for Bishop Luers would mean a lot of big numbers. It would mean the 10th state title in program history. That would tie them for the most with Chittard. For Matt Lindsay, it would mean his 9th as a head coach at Bishop Luers, and that would tie him with Sheridan legend Bud Wright for the most state titles as a head coach. What do those milestones mean if they can be achieved on Friday night?
Well, obviously Matt Lindsay's done a fantastic job, and it's interesting because the players after the win the other night really talked a lot about the assistant coaches and how well they prepared the players for the Bremen offense and defense. And so Matt Lindsay's a smart guy. He's surrounded himself with great assistant coaches, but obviously he's the one pulling the trigger, and he's done a fantastic job. It does resonate with me, though, that it helps to be at a parochial school. 7% of the football-playing schools in the state of Indiana started the tournament, were non-public, and 70% of them that are playing for state championships are parochial schools. So it does help to be at a parochial school, but at the end of the day, Matt Lindsay's the one that has to teach them how to throw, catch, tackle, block, do all those things, and he's done it. So kudos to Coach Lindsay. He's done a fantastic job.
In your eyes, what's the one thing that Bishop Luers has to do on Friday night to bring home that 3rd straight state championship trophy?
You know, I think that they need to run the ball. Jalen Smith has to have a successful night running the ball. If they can do that, then they can control the pace of play, and they can kind of dictate how this game goes. And then that'll open up areas for James Kanafke to throw when he wants to, not when he has to. If they fall behind, obviously Kanafke's going to have to throw the ball, which he can, but you really want to control the pace of play in a big title game like this. And running the ball is how you do that. Managing the clock, not turning it over, that's how you do this.
How good was it to face a team like Bremen that really did challenge them for at least 3 quarters last week because of the nature of the other games they played in the playoffs? I mean, Busco, we thought that was going to be a little bit closer than 34-7. Tipton it looked closer on paper than it actually was in person. So how good of a test was that to say, okay, you're going to have to play a pretty good brand of football to advance here?
Well, I think it helps a lot. I mean, Kurt Tippmann at Snyder is a perfect example of that. He didn't shy away from playing the best competition he could find this year because he knew it would help them late in the season. Sure enough, they won 6 of their last 7 games. So, yeah, the games against Snyder, Dwenger, Bremen, those all help the Luers kids immensely so that they don't just go in and get punched in the mouth by Mater Dei right off the bat and they're taken aback. I mean, they've they played teams better than Mater Dei this year in Snyder and Dwenger, and they've excelled. So it does help quite a bit that they've gotten a test, and they'll be ready to play this weekend.
Final question, your prediction.
I think Bishop Luers wins by 7.
That's what I was going to say. I was hoping you were going to say, because you normally go high. You go by 21 or by 14. I was going to say Bishop Luers by a touchdown.
I'm going to tell you, Mater Dei doesn't have James Kanafke, doesn't have Jalen Smith, doesn't have Michael Rogers, Montez Brooks, Kendrick Mullen, Andrew Spencer, all those guys, all the talent. They don't have Matt Lindsay, although Mike Gable has done a great job in 15 years down there, but they don't have the weapons that Bishop Luers has, and the Knights are going to get it done. We're going to be celebrating come Saturday morning.
All right. Should be a very interesting week leading up to the 2A state championship game. Tom will have you covered in the newspaper. We'll have you covered on the TV side. And thank you for watching and logging on to Wayne.com.